How are we all doing? Excellent. So in case you're wondering, this is the developer track. Does anyone know how you can tell this is the developer track? Because I don't have any tattoos, no body piercings, I'm not wearing a beret, I don't have a black turtleneck. So this is definitely the developer side. So welcome, my name is Ben Riga. I am a technical evangelist with Microsoft. I'm in a group called Developer and Platform Evangelism, DPE for short. And today we're going to spend a day together. So hopefully we'll have some fun. Just some logistics. If, like I said, we're going to try and have some fun. So please, if you have a question, don't hold it back. Please raise your hand and we'll try and make it as interactive as possible throughout the day. Thanks. Thank you. My servant, Wilfried. Let's see, what else? Oh, yes, of course. If you have any questions after the event, please feel free to email me. I've left my email address on the slides, and you should feel free. I mean, some people are shy about that, and I'm here to tell you I've tried to answer every single email. If you have a question that you can't get answered somewhere else, if you can't find your answer on Bing search or whatever, then please email me, and I'm more than happy to point you in the right direction if I can. I also have a Twitter account. Please follow me on Twitter. I'm at Ben Riga. It helps me with my confidence and my self-confidence. It helps my boss to know that I'm actually doing something when I have lots of followers. So please follow me on Twitter. So anyway, so with that, we're going to go through a number of sessions today. I'm going to start with the very basic, which is why Windows Phone. So how many here have never seen Windows Phone before? Wow, just a few. So maybe we should skip this session. Okay, if you guys just want to take a break for an hour, that's fine. How many have never seen Windows Phone Mango? Okay, all right, so let's spend more time on Mango, less time on Windows Phone. Okay, so let me just jump right in. I guess one of the things that I do want to point out is that there is a difference between Windows Phone and our competitors. If you look at the various devices on the screen there, you see lots and lots of grids of icons. And that's great, but it's really putting the focus on the device or the technology, as opposed to what we've tried to do is wipe the board clean, try and redesign the interface for a mobile device to put it at the center of what you're trying to do. When you pick up your device, more times than not, what you're trying to do is communicate with people. And so what we've tried to do is put people at the center of everything that we do in the experience. And I'll show you what we mean by that in a few minutes. So more about people, less about icons. Now, of course, you can still get to applications and so on, but what we've tried to do is put that people-centric approach. And with that, there's really three areas that we focused on, specifically in Windows Phone Mango or Windows Phone 7.5, which is the latest release. The first one is modern communications. Communications a few years ago was all about email. Maybe you remember what a fax was. Now there's all sorts of different types of communications possibilities. It's not just email, but it's also SMS and texting. It's Facebook, it's LinkedIn, it's Twitter, it's all sorts of different communication mechanisms. It's even photographic stuff, like sharing of photos via Flickr and all sorts of other areas, video even. And so what we've tried to do is build that modern communications capability directly into the device so that you don't have to think about it as a consumer. And I'll show you what I mean by this in a few minutes. The second thing is a smarter way to app. By that, what we mean is making it easier for you as a consumer to understand what your apps are trying to do, and also making that experience of running apps a little bit more central, and making it even possible for you to get information from your app without even starting the app at all. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a few minutes. We've also tried to make it easier for the end user to discover new apps using a number of different technologies, one of them being what's called App Connect, or connecting apps to search. So when an end user does a search in Bing, it will actually, in many cases, return a relevant app as well as the app, the results of that big search. And then finally, internet beyond the browser. Obviously, the internet is important. We're pretty sure it's going to be around for a while. Some of you are laughing at my jokes, so obviously the rest of you are still asleep. So internet beyond the browser. The first thing is that Internet Explorer obviously has had a major upgrade in the latest release, and we'll spend some time showing you the differences between what Internet Explorer does in this release versus what it did previously. And then finally, in some areas, there's ways of finding information or stuff around you, no matter where you are with your mobile phone. So I'm going to spend the next 60 slides describing all these things. Some of you know it's a joke. Or we could just do a demo. Which would you prefer?
Slides.
Yeah, the slides. Okay, someone wants slides. So you're going to have to leave, sir. All right, so let's actually pop up. So what I am using here is, this is actually an engineering device, and it has a special capability in that it allows me to project what I see on the screen is what you'll see on the monitor. And that little orange dot that you see there, that's my thumb right now. And it actually detects multiple points and so on. So the first thing you'll notice is that Windows Phone, even before you unlock it, is already trying to give you some information. And so you can see here that I have three. If you don't do something, it actually turns itself off. You see here I have 3 email messages on one side and 4 on another. I have 2 different accounts. One is a personal account, the other is a business account, is an Exchange account. And so it's telling me, hey, there's something you need to have a look at. And then if I actually unlock it, nobody look at my password there, you can see that there's information here. And then there's actually a 4th account, which is the email. But before we get into email, I wanted to spend the time around people. And the primary area where people is important is in what we call the People Hub. And the People Hub is where basically all of your contacts are aggregated. And so here you can see I have lots of contacts. And it's because I'm a friendly guy. The other thing is that what it's trying to do here is it's aggregating all of my various social networks together. So it's pulled in all of the contacts from my Hotmail account. It's pulled in all of the contacts from my Exchange account. It's pulled in all of the accounts from a 3rd email account that I have. It's pulled in all of my LinkedIn accounts, all my Facebook accounts, all my Twitter accounts, and aggregated them all together so that when I'm looking for someone, I see them all in one spot. So if I look at, let's see, my colleague Wilfried in the back. Let me see if I can find him here. There's Wilfried. And actually here, that's his Windows Live account. Let's see if I can find him here. There's Wilfried's information, and you can see here that I have all of his contact information. In this case, I only have him in Outlook, but if I had him also in, let me see if I can find another, perhaps my wife. Yeah, I do know how to spell my wife's name. Okay. What the heck? You're making fun of me here, I can tell. So here, my wife, you can see you can see across the top. I guess it's a little hard for those in the back, but at the top it does say Windows Live, Outlook, and Facebook. So it's aggregated all of her information, and so if I scroll down, you'll see all of her information, including, you know, address and all of that good stuff.
Question?
Yes.
If you don't want
We are happily married. Thank you. Is that not the question?
if you don't want to aggregate your accounts from Facebook and LinkedIn, can you turn it on?
So the question was, for those that didn't hear it, and also for the recording, we are recording this, is what happens if I don't want to aggregate my accounts? And of course, you don't have to enter your account. So if I don't put in my Facebook account, it won't aggregate my Facebook contacts. It's as simple as that. Or LinkedIn or Twitter or what have you.
Turn it off.
You can also, if I go into settings here, you can also filter your contact list so that you can look at, so for instance, when I'm communicating, most of the people on Twitter, I'm not communicating with them except on Twitter. And so I don't look at my Twitter accounts in my contacts list. But everybody else, I have a bunch of different accounts for. Does that answer your question?
Yes,
Is that good?
that's good.
You ready to buy? There's someone at the back waiting to take your order. Any other questions? How am I doing? Is this interesting so far?
One question.
Sure.
When you have all these accounts, normally what I've seen is the most common problem is that you end up having the same person 50 times because
Yeah.
he has is
Yeah.
there a way to somehow converse together?
Yeah, so the question at the front is, well, sometimes I have a lot of different accounts and they're not all together, right? And so you actually saw this earlier with Wilfried. And so let me find Wilfried again and correct that, if I can type. You can see here Wilfried is down here 5 times. So I'm connected to Wilfried, and somehow it hasn't figured out that Wilfried is all the same person. And so you'll see the little chain at the bottom there. That's a function where I can look at that and say, well, you know what? Let's link all of Wilfried's accounts together. And so now when I go back and look at Wilfried, you can see across the top I have his Windows Live, Outlook, Facebook, Twitter, and they're all combined together.
You have to do this manually for you?
Most of the time it will figure it out. It will basically try and do an intelligent match based on email addresses. And so if all the email addresses are together, I'm not sure why it didn't work this time, but most of the time it will figure it out. Any other questions? Great questions, by the way. Okay, let's keep going. So contacts is kind of an interesting one. One of the things you'll see is that when I'm looking at a contact, I'm going to pick on Wilfried. Sorry, Wilfried. Is he gone? He's gone, right? Great, we can talk about him. So you'll notice that Wilfried, not only do I have profile information, but I also have what's called the What's New pane. And here what it's doing is it's showing me not just his contact information, but all of the various things that he's been saying on Facebook or Twitter. All of that stuff, again, is aggregated. Not only that, but we also have pictures. And so if I have, Wilfried may have uploaded pictures to Facebook, it will actually show me all of his photos. So again, photos used to be just about saving memories, right? Now it's more about communicating and telling people what's going on in your life. And so there's a photo of Wilfried and I playing pool in Seattle a while back. So anyway, so that's the profile. Not only do I see this on a person by person, but I can also look at my what's new. So I don't have to actually go and launch my Facebook app to see what's going on with all my contacts. I don't have to launch my Twitter app to get a quick sense of what's going on. I can just look at my what's new, and it will show me all of the various people that I'm interested in and show me their information. Now, of course, if you do want to spend time in your Facebook app, because it has all sorts of other features beyond just social status, you can, of course, do that. And there is a Facebook app, and there's a Twitter app, and so on. Is there a question?
Yes. Is it possible to get new applications and services into this People Hub, like Google Plus or something like that?
The question was, is it possible to add additional social networks to this People Hub? And you mentioned one that I've never heard of. Google, something, I don't know.
Skype?
Skype, yeah. The answer is no. That particular part of the People Hub, there's no extensibility to the API. But we have nothing against adding Google. It didn't make the cut this time because it actually came quite recently, and it didn't make it into our project plan. But I suspect if it continues to be popular, that we'll probably add it at some point in the future. No guarantees. Nobody quote me on that. I'm sure it's on Twitter already, right? Ben Riga says. Anyway, so you get the sense there. The same thing if I look at, these are all my recent contacts and so on. The other thing you may have noticed is these two items here, family and team. Those are above all of my contacts, and the reason is that those are what we call groups. And so what this allows me to do is to group various people together in social groups, maybe smaller social groups, that are important to me. So this one is my family group, where I have my wife, my son, and my daughter all grouped together, and that allows me to do some interesting things. For instance, now I can look at the what's new status for my own family or this social group. Similarly, I can look at pictures just from this small social group. So it allows me to group people the way I want to see them. And so in my case, I have a group for family, and I have a group for my teammates. These are people that I work with constantly, and so very often I want to know what's going on in their lives. And so that's an interesting way to group people. Any questions there? The one thing I can do with group is not only do I see the information, what's new, and pictures and so on, but I can also communicate with them. So you notice that there's a text and chat there. So if I click text and chat, you'll see that it allows me to text or messenger all of those people at the same time. If I had Facebook chat enabled, it would also allow me to Facebook chat with these people all at the same time. And we'll see a little bit more about that in a second. So for instance, if I want to send a text to my whole family, I go into the group, I hit text, I send it, and it's gone. So it's a very convenient way of communicating to a group quickly. Talking about messaging, you'll notice that there is a way, let me get back here to messaging. Messaging is a separate app. This is where you do your communicating. And you'll notice here that there's threads. These are past messages that I have actually received. And then there's also an online thread as well. And here I'm looking at not just the people that I know, but these are people that are online on either Facebook chat or MSN Messenger, and that allows me to communicate with them. So I can pick any one of these people. So let's say Brandon Watson, who's one of the folks I work with in the Windows Phone division. And so here I could actually send, in this case, Brandon Watson is online on Facebook, and so I could start a conversation with Brandon and say, hi Brandon, how's it going? And then if I come back to it in 5 minutes and maybe Brandon has logged off of Facebook, I can actually switch this conversation to a text conversation, and keeping all of this communication in a thread. I shouldn't have to open my text application to start a text communication and my Facebook application to do Facebook. I have a communications stream going between me and Brandon in this case, and so why should I not be able to communicate that and just switch back and forth? Now, I don't have a communication link with Messenger with Brandon, but if I did, it would allow me to switch between Messenger and Facebook and texting all in one go. This is really convenient because it means that I don't have to worry about what type of device the other person has, right? As long as they are communicating and they're connected, I can get to them, right? Because texting works on any device. Facebook chat, most devices. MSN Messengers works on many devices. So again, I can switch back and forth, and I don't have this proprietary system that you may have seen in other ways. So any questions on messaging? So let's have a look at email. There's a number of changes that have happened in email.
Actually, one question.
Yeah, sure.
Let's say you're talking with a lot of people, and now you're switching between these people, and it goes a little bit fast, and you write something, and you realize, my God, I should have said that to the first person, but not the second person. Can you recall the text or something?
So the question is, if I have sent the wrong text to the wrong person, I don't know what kind of communications you're doing, but hopefully it's not your wife, your mistress that you're worried about.
I didn't go there.
You didn't go there, okay, but I did. So the question was, if I send the wrong message to the wrong person, am I able to actually retrieve a message or pull back a message? And there's no capability to do that. I don't think that capability exists in texting, for instance, and certainly not in chat. Once it's on someone's screen, you can't pull it back. It's just the way it is.
It exists in Outlook.
In Outlook you can, sure. The Outlook is email, it's different technology. It's not an instant messaging type of thing. That's the problem with instant messaging, it's actually instant. Not really, okay. It was a good joke though. Where were we? Yeah, let's talk about email. And so let me look at, this is an email account. It's actually sample email, so don't feel like you have to write down, there's no company secrets here. This is an email account that has a bunch of different messages. And you'll see the red ones are the ones that are not read yet. And you'll see a couple of things that are kind of interesting. The first one is something that we've added recently in Mango, and that's the capability of conversation view. So you see this little line here. If I click on this, you see it opens it up, and it actually allows me to see a whole conversation. So I can start at the beginning and see what the message was, and then look at other messages and see what's related to that, right? So the idea here is that when you're reading a message in your inbox, you should be able to have the context of what that message is. So if someone is replying to a message that you sent yesterday, you may want to go back and look at what was that message you sent and what were the details in that. And so it's very convenient. The nice thing is that it even does it with messages that are not in your inbox. So for instance, if someone sent me a message and I file it in another folder, it will actually group them all together in my inbox so that I can look at them all at the same time in context. And then when I file the messages, then they all sort of disappear. So it's a really convenient way of doing messaging. The other thing that's kind of cool is the way we handle, is that too loud when I bend down? I feel like I'm shouting when I'm bending down. Is that okay? Did you have a question, sir?
How do you handle color blindness? You said red, some of them are red before, I missed that.
Okay, so a good question. So someone asked, well, how do you handle color blindness? In this case, because it's red, and if you have, some people can't see or the contrast between red and other colors, or can't see colors at all in some cases. You can actually choose which color, and there are theme colors. You can also choose the background theme and so on, whether it's black in the background or white in the background. So yeah, you can change colors. Any other questions? Lots of questions. Let's start here and then we'll come to you, sir.
Yeah, you can, there's a setting for how long you want to keep an email, like 2 weeks, a month.
Yes.
But if there's like an email that's really important and you want to save it, like the ticket to this course or something, it was sent more than a month ago, I believe. Can you make sure that it stays on your phone, that it's not automatic
Okay.
deleted?
So the question was, in some cases, there is a setting in email that allows you to tell Outlook how many messages, well, not how many messages, but how long to keep messages. So if I have 2 weeks worth of messages or 4 weeks or 1 week, whatever it is, this gentleman's asking, well, what if there are certain messages that maybe are older than a month that I want to keep around? And I'm not aware of any way to do that, except perhaps saving that message in another place, like OneNote, for instance, which is another type of application that will allow you to do that, to keep different types of information and sort through it that way.
All right. Another question: if you receive an email with a certain attachment, and the phone doesn't know how to open this attachment, is there a way to automatically search for an application that can open this?
So the question was, if you receive an email with an attachment for which the phone doesn't yet know how to open that attachment,
Yeah.
is there a way for the phone or the device or the platform to go and find the application to open that? In fact, there is a limited number of attachment types that we do support. All of the Office documents are supported, as well as PDF.
PDF is not automatically supported, right? You have to download back.
PDF is not automatically supported, but it is available in the marketplace, so you can install it. There is no extensibility though, so if you don't have that particular attachment, if it's not one of the Office documents or PDF, then it's just not supported. There's no extensibility in Outlook.
Ah, all
I think there was a question over here.
Yeah. This what grouping of messages or
Conversation view is what we call it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Is there any possibility to add other messages into that? if you have like a call it conversation,
Yeah.
yeah. If you have other messages that you want to add into context,
Oh, I see, yeah.
Is that possible?
So the question was, well, if we have this conversation view, is there some way for me to take another message and add it to that conversation? And there isn't actually. Oh, okay. So that's not a good message. Okay. I forget the question now.
Yeah, add.
Oh, add messages. There isn't actually. So the Outlook actually figures out what messages are part of a thread. It's actually part of Exchange. Exchange has that capability, and so it figures it out based on headers and text and titles of messages and so on. Yeah. Any other questions? How are we doing? Oh, yes.
Yeah, because you said that you're only supporting a limited number of attachment types. What's the design is not letting the developer adding a support for new attachment type? I mean, the phone should sort of be able to compete with the existing smartphone.
So the question was, well, shouldn't we be able, as developers, and I guess there's a few in the room, shouldn't we be able to add our own apps to do additional documents? And that's certainly a potential. It's not an API that we have opened yet, so possibly in the future.
What's the reason for not opening it?
I don't have a reason. I suspect it's probably related to, like many things that we do around the phone, there's really two things that we try to optimize for. One is the health of the device, and so maintaining battery life and performance and all of that stuff. And the other is the experience of the user. And so there's all sorts of things that go into that in terms of performance of the UI, as well as just having an experience. Users should never regret installing an application. And there's also potential security implications as well. But I don't have a specific answer. That's sort of generically the way we make decisions around which features make it in. How am I doing? Is this good? Should we keep going? Should we keep going? Okay. I thought you were going to say no. Didn't see anyone leave yet. So someone brought up attachments, a couple of people actually. So let's have a look at how we do support attachments. So here is a mail message that actually has a PowerPoint PowerPoint deck. And so if I tapped on that, you'll see that it actually has loaded PowerPoint, and I'm able to actually scan through with animations and so on, and go through this application. The other thing I can do is I can actually, because this is PowerPoint, I can actually go into edit mode and edit this. You see there's a number of different options there. So if I wanted to edit this and change maybe some text and say, I don't know, Copenhagen or something like that, you can see that you can actually do your edits on the fly, save it to your device, and then send it to someone else or forward it on, and so on. So all of that stuff is supported. As you can imagine, we have many different, I'm not going to save those changes, but we have many different types of support. Let's have a look at Excel, for instance. Same idea. Here it's opening the document. And so here I'm looking at a graph. I can zoom in with pinch and so on. I can make changes and so on. So I mean, it's pretty much what you would expect, except you also have the ability to edit, save, forward, and do all of the great communications that you would expect. Any questions on that? Let's have a look at calendar. One of the things you...
Yeah, one thing.
Yep, sorry, I didn't know. Sorry.
In Excel, will it actually run macros?
So the question is, in Excel, will it run macros? I don't think so, but I've never tried. So you remember my email from earlier? Please email me and I'll check for you. Yeah, more than happy to do that. Where was I going? Right, let's look at calendaring. So here's a message right up at the top from Ezio, who's actually inviting me to a meeting. And you'll notice that that meeting, it's actually, because it knows my calendar and it knows when this meeting is, it's actually saying, hey, there's like actual conflict here. It's a little hard to read, even up front, it's a little hard to read because it's in sort of grayed out there, but you can actually see that there's a conflict right on the screen. And if I tap on it, it's actually going to open my calendar and show me, here's the new message, here's the one it's conflicting with, and I can take decisions right from within the calendar. And let's actually look at that calendar. There's it. There's my calendar. One of the things you'll note is that I have the ability to support multiple calendars. So right now I have my Windows Live, my Outlook calendar, my Facebook calendar, and I can turn them on or off, and I can assign different colors to them. I can even have, if I subscribe to events in Facebook, they will actually appear in my calendar. So it's kind of handy that way. And then you look at them side by side. We're gonna have to, for the audio guys, maybe at the next break, we're gonna have to lower the volume here. I think it's just getting a lot of feedback. I apologize, especially to you guys in the front.
One question about the calendar.
Sure.
Is it only your own calendars, or is it possible, for instance, to have your wife's calendar in here also?
It's a great question. So the question from the gentleman in the front is it limited to only my calendars, or can I add my wife's calendars? You're really focused on your wife, I can see that. It's a good thing, it's a good thing. So the answer is you can have shared calendars. Windows Live, for instance, allows you to share calendars. And so if you have access to someone's calendar, you can add that as an account and then have that shared and see that. And both of you can see that and add events and take off events. I know I do this sometimes where you have to make sure someone's picking up the kid at a certain time and dropping your son at soccer and your daughter at dance and so on. So yes, absolutely, we do support that. Any other questions?
One more question. The calendar
Yes.
work categories as well. Does it adopt categories from Outlook?
The question was categories for I don't think so. So the question was, does calendar support categories from Outlook or from Exchange? And I don't believe it does.
Color coding.
Color coding, I know.
Yeah, no, that's
The color coding is color coded per calendar, not by category. So I think it would be kind of confusing.
Color coding in Outlook, not a category coding, but a color coding. It will not adopt this.
It will not adopt the color coding from Outlook, no. I think there's a question here, yes?
Yeah, if you use multiple calendars, like I have my own calendar, I have my wife, and then we have joint calendar.
Right.
I would like to get notice if when something is going to happen in my calendar and in the joint calendar. But I don't need to have a notice that pop up on the screen saying my doctor is going to, my wife is going to the doctor now. Is there a way to see
Yeah.
see what's going on in her calendar, but not getting any notice about what's
So
going
the
on?
question was, I have multiple calendars. In some cases, I will want to see reminders and notifications for some calendars, but be able to see but not get notifications for other calendars, for instance, someone else's calendar. And the answer is you can. The ones that you have enabled, the ones where you can see that the Facebook right now is enabled. This is my Outlook calendar right now is disabled. So you would have to go in, enable it, you could look at someone's calendar, and then disable it again so you don't get the notifications. That would be sort of a manual thing that you'd have to do. There's no setting that says, here's a calendar, but don't show me notifications.
Yeah, and also don't show me conflict and so on.
Right.
It's,
Right. You'd have to
put
turn
in
it
a
off.
meeting, I don't
Right.
have to, it shouldn't conflict with
Right.
my wife going to the doctor.
Right, yes, you wouldn't want to see conflicts. Just like you wouldn't see notifications, you wouldn't see conflicts.
What about free busy and inviting other attendees to a meeting?
Sorry?
You want to invite other attendees and say free busy? You have that as well?
You can invite other people to a meeting. I don't think it will do free busy. So the question was, if I add, can I check free busy for other attendees when I'm inviting them to a meeting on my device? That is not yet supported. At least I haven't seen that yet. Any other questions? Lots of questions on calendar. You guys are very organized in Denmark, apparently. The other thing that we added, because you're organized, is the to-do list as well. So you have, if you have to-dos, you can store these to-dos either on Windows Live or in Exchange, if you have a to-do list in Exchange or a task list, these will now get pulled down to the device. The last thing I wanted to talk about in communications was pictures. As I mentioned, pictures is kind of another way of communicating now. This is the same way we saw the People Hub earlier. This is the Pictures Hub. And so you'll note that there's a lot of information here. This is all of the various photos that my colleagues have posted. The same way in the People Hub, I was looking at people's social status updates. Now I'm looking at their photo status updates. And so I can look at various photos. I can assign photos as favorites, and I can look at what's new. And then I can actually look at a particular camera photos, or I can look at particular albums, of course. Let me just pick one. This is not my family, by the way. This is just some sample photos that we use. And so here's a photo that I might want to upload to Facebook. And so it's actually very easy, as you can imagine, because it's easy to pull down photos, it's also easy to post photos. And so if I have a photo that I've either taken on my device or I have downloaded as part of an album, I can just simply share it on Facebook. You notice what it does, it may be hard to see in the back, is that it's immediately detected that there are faces in this photo. And because I'm sharing on Facebook, and Facebook actually supports the ability to tag people in photos, which is actually a way of communicating, letting people know that you're posting stuff about them, or showing people what's going on in your life. So I can actually see that there's, just by saying share on Facebook, it's actually detected that there are people there. And if I tap in that area, it will actually bring up a particular list. So it's asking me, who is this? Is this me? Which is normally what you would have in a photo. Or I can go back and say, show me all my Facebook contacts, and then I can choose one. It doesn't happen to be Ari here. I'm not going to post this, because that's going to really confuse Ari. But you get the idea. So when I post this, I can add my I can tag people or just add tags. I can add a caption, hit send, and it's off to Facebook. It's all immediately in my wall so people can see it, and it's in my timeline. Any questions on that? Okay, let's keep going. So I'm going to stop there on the communication side. I did want to spend a few minutes in a couple of other areas. Let me just exit out here. You may have noticed, how are we doing on time, by the way? Okay, I think we're going to try and, yeah.
One question to Mango.
Sure.
What you just did there, you were going into all these levels in the application, and you wanted to go back to the home screen.
Yes.
Isn't there one push to go back there?
Okay, so the question was,
and close it all down at the same time.
So the question was, I saw, Ben, that you were hitting a lot of back buttons to exit out. I'll tell you why I was doing that in a second. But the question was, well, couldn't I just hit one button to exit the app and get to the start screen? There is one button. It's the start button, the little Windows button in the front. It doesn't exit the app because we don't want people to have to think about exiting apps and managing memory and trying to keep all of that stuff in mind. As a consumer, you shouldn't have to think about that. Just use your device and we'll worry about all of that other technology stuff.
But the consequence is when you go back to the app, you enter the same point as you left.
Right, so the point then is, yeah, when you go back, you're going to get back at the same point where you left. And yes, that's a good thing. Yeah, that's probably where you want to be in many cases. You can actually restart the app. So if I go to the start menu and then, well, in this case, I actually exited. But if I had hit the home button and then from the start screen hit pictures, then it won't take me back. It will actually restart pictures.
Okay, that's good.
So that's one way to restart it. If I hit the back button, then it takes me back.
Okay.
Yeah, and then actually one of the things, actually we'll see it in a few minutes, when we talk about apps, yes?
What about security?
We think security is important. Next question.
If you
Oh, good question. So the question was, what about security? What if I leave my phone in a taxi or in a train or something? How do I control access to my device? There's a few ways. One is you can set a passcode, a PIN code on your device. There's a SIM PIN code, of course, but there's also a device PIN code. And if someone enters the PIN code too many times, it will actually wipe your device. So you get, I think, 3 or 4 tries, and then if you miss, it will actually wipe your device so your data is gone. So yeah, so the question was, don't give it to your baby. I have heard a few people do that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that we do support policies. So for instance, if you are using Exchange, Exchange does support the ability to remote wipe a device. If you're not sure that someone's going to enter the key and you want to make sure that no one touches it, you can go into Exchange and there's an option there to say, remote wipe my device. If you're not on Exchange, you can set yourself up, there's an option to tell the device, hey, I want to use my phone, my Windows Phone, and there's a site, windowsphone.com, where you can do a number of things. You can locate the device, so it'll actually show you on a map where your device is. It won't show you which cushion of the sofa it is, but it will show you a general area of where your device is, so hopefully it will give you an idea of where you left it. You can do a remote wipe, of course. That's one way. If you don't use Exchange, you can use the Windows Phone, my Windows Phone. What else? You can ask the phone to ring, right? So you know it's in the house somewhere, but you can ask it to ring, and it will actually turn on a special ringer, which is very loud, and it will ring it. And you can actually, I think the last one, there was one other thing you could do, which escapes me now, but there is a number of areas that you can do that. So security-wise, I think we're pretty well covered. Any other questions? Yes?
Yeah, according to the security.
I think you've met your quota of questions.
I've had a few Windows Phone, and it is very fast to set up. Good for that, compared to any other smartphones, I would say. But it still takes some time that you have to remember your you have to put in your Facebook account, your Windows Live, your link it, your POP3 mail, and so on. Is there a way to save all these settings that you have to, when you set up your phone the first time, then if you lost your phone and you have to set up a new phone, is there a way to like download all these settings very fast?
Sure. So the question was, I've set up Windows Phone, and it's great. It's very quick to set up. Thank you for doing that. I'll pay you later. On the other hand, it does force you, in some cases, to re-enter some things. And so the question was, isn't there a way for Microsoft to save all that information in somewhere? And we do some of that. So for instance, if you save, I believe it's your Twitter and LinkedIn accounts, once you give us your Windows Live account, it will actually pull those in automatically. But Facebook, I think there's a requirement from Facebook that we not store that. And so you have to re-enter that on your own. There's all sorts of things that we do. We're getting better and better at putting more and more in the cloud. But there are some things that you do still have to do manually when you set up. So that'll just get better over time. Any other questions? Yes, in the back.
Not only PIN code blocks, but actual passwords. Instead of opening the phone up with a faulty code, you insert a password.
A password? Oh, you know, I don't. Can you email me? I believe we had talked about possibly doing that. I don't remember if we've implemented that. I don't believe it's an option, but I think you can as a policy. So Microsoft, for instance, could force Microsoft employees to enter a password rather than PIN code. And I think it's a group policy that comes as part of Exchange. It's not something that every consumer is going to want. In fact, most consumers don't want any passwords at all. Yeah. Any others? Any other questions? Lots of good questions, but I think we're going to run out of time. Where was I? I completely lost where I was. Oh, one of the things I wanted to show is the Office Hub. And so we saw this earlier, the ability to open documents from within from within Outlook. But of course, you may actually have documents on your device that you want to store, and there's a number of ways that you can do that. And so there's the Microsoft, same way we've seen the People Hub and the Pictures Hub, there's also a Office Hub, and here is where you would store different types of Office type documents. So PowerPoint, Excel, and then OneNote is really handy for keeping notes. I use OneNote, for instance. We have the same way you would share your calendar with your wife. I share a note with my wife, so that if we're trying to coordinate a vacation, for instance, we would both be taking notes and sharing that. Or maybe she has a to-do list for me that gets longer and longer, and I can't get away from it because it's following me on my device, right? So these are things that you can do with OneNote, and it's also really handy for taking notes in meetings and so on, and you want to be able to consult that on your device. So all of that is available. If you have SharePoint as part of your enterprise, it will take that as, you can add that. In fact, some of the documents you see here are coming from a SharePoint site. SharePoint, it's a fictitious SharePoint site. You can have stuff locally, right, on your phone. And then you can also have SkyDrive, which is a free service where you can have, I think it's up to 25 gigs worth of documents, pretty much any kind of Office or pictures or that sort of thing. So it's really, really handy. Was there a question, sir?
You mentioned SharePoint, so if you replicate from SharePoint or just browsing on SharePoint, how do you handle the security violation?
So the question was, if we use SharePoint, how do we handle SharePoint? And so we do. Sorry? You can actually make changes and save back to SharePoint. So you would enter your credentials. And so in my case, I entered my my Active Directory credentials, and it went off. Assuming your SharePoint site is available over the internet, it will be able to get to it and either retrieve your documents, and cache them locally, and allow you to edit them and then save them back.
SharePoint list on that phone right now?
Not a list, but a document. Yeah.
So it's document libraries.
So here's, I believe this one is actually on SharePoint. It's a very short PowerPoint, but yeah. And that's stored locally. And then if I were to make changes and save, it would save it back to my SharePoint site. Any other questions? We're running out of time, so I wanted to maybe.
Last question
Yeah,
about
sure.
notes. Is it possible to have it both verbally and textually? So when you make a note, can you make it verbally?
So the question was, is it possible for someone to take a note verbally, so dictate a note? Yeah, and that's not possible at this point. You can use voice to do things like send a text or read a text out loud. You can use it to search on Bing. You can use it to play a song. There's a few things that you can do, but not dictate a whole note. That would be quite a pretty sophisticated scenario. Voice is really handy. I use it when I'm driving, and you can have a nice conversation with someone over text without ever picking up your device. It's really handy and much safer than trying to text. Yes?
Does OneNote not capture voice notes?
Sorry?
OneNote, would that be able to capture voice notes?
Yeah, but it wouldn't transcribe. Is that what you're asking? You wanted voice notes?
Yeah.
So
if I talk
yeah,
to it, then it
yeah.
transfer it into text or something like that.
So you would have to do the transferring. You would have to retype it. But there is a way. For instance, let me just say, here, let's just add one here. So you can see there's a few things that I can do here. I can add bullet points, to-do items, and I could just say add, and here I would be dictating and recording myself. And now, if I plug this back in, that now would get saved to my, in this case, that was a SkyDrive one. Okay, apparently the sound is not working, but it is playing back what I just said there. Any other questions? Please no, because we're going to run out of time. The one thing that is really handy that we've added in Mango is what we call fast app switching. And what you've seen is my hitting the start button and the back button to exit applications. And that's fine if you're just going to the previous application, but sometimes you have applications that are stacked. So for instance, if I hold down the back button, now I have a number of different applications that I can get to. And this is really handy. I can get back to applications very quickly by just skipping back and forth. It's really handy also in that it keeps all of those applications in memory. And so applications perhaps that are taking a lot of memory, so here's a game for instance, which normally would take maybe 30 seconds to start because it's got so much graphics and so on. And you can see that I'm immediately able to crash my plane. Okay. Okay, maybe I'll do that later. So anyway, so you get the idea. That's what we refer to as fast app switching. It's something that you as a developer need to understand because it is something that you need to take care of in your own applications. We're going to spend a whole session on it later. It's actually very easy to do, but it is something, there's a process to it. You have to understand the implications. And so we're going to spend maybe half an hour on it later today. The other thing that I wanted to look at, I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but it is kind of important, is the idea of what we call live tiles. You'll notice here, for instance, AccuWeather, I was in Madrid not too long ago, so I had set Madrid as my default city. It's giving me the temperature in Madrid. Without my having to launch AccuWeather, I can immediately see live information about it. I also would see the same thing in texts, for instance. So I know that I have new text, or I know I have new email, because I'll see a number pop up in my tile. So this is the idea of a live tile, the idea of glanceable information, allowing you to to have an understanding of what's going on in the app before you even open it, so you know whether you want to open it. As a developer, I would strongly encourage you to think about scenarios where you can take advantage of live tiles. The reason I say that is because we know that applications that have live tiles get higher ratings in the marketplace. They tend to get used more, and there's a stronger engagement, right? So end users are more likely to start your application if they pin it to their start screen, because that's what a live tile kind of asks you to do. And then if you keep giving them information that asks them to come back in. So for instance, IMDb on occasion will show me, it's not doing it now, but on occasion it will show me a background of a movie. And so it will try and give me some information of some interesting tidbit of movie facts that it was trying to sort of feed me, and as a way of pulling me back into the application. And I think as developers, that's what you want. You want your customers to be using your application more, and live tiles really does that. So like I said, end users love live tiles, so I encourage you to have live tiles wherever you can. We're going to spend a lot of time on that. We'll spend probably 45 minutes talking about live tiles and how you can take advantage of that later on today. Any questions on that? I'm kind of going a little bit quick because we're actually already 5 minutes over right now. Oh, okay. So the one thing we haven't done is the internet. So let's spend a few minutes in Internet Explorer. So I launched Internet Explorer, and it's actually opened itself up, and you can, this is the last page that I was on. I can also manage tabs, so I can see which tabs are open to me. And I can actually add a tab. So let me open a tab, go to one of my favorites. This is a public site. It's the Internet Explorer Test Drive. The version of Internet Explorer that's in Windows Phone 7.5 is the exact same Internet Explorer 9 that you have on your desktop. Same rendering engine, same layout engine, and what that means is that you get the same performance, and you also get the same compatibility. And so applications, or web applications that are built to IE, will just work on the phone. Was there a question? So this is a site that actually shows off some of the capabilities of Internet Explorer 9. And in this case, it's the mobile capability. So let me just do a couple of them. This one's my favorite. This is the fish tank. And so it's actually put, I think it's 25 fish on the screen. And it's actually animating them using HTML5 And it's hard to read, but in the top left-hand corner right now, it's at 28 frames per second. So that's really fast. And the reason it can do that is because IE, wherever it can, is trying to use the GPU to do animations and graphics processing of any kind. So that means that your internet is just going to be a lot faster. The performance is going to be a lot smoother. I should say that this is an older, I'll come to your question in a second. This is an older device. This is an engineering device. It's actually a 7.0 engineering device. And so 29, 30 frames per second is about as fast as it goes. The newer devices, like the Nokia Lumia, which is a beautiful device, by the way. Hopefully you'll get a chance to play with one today. Those devices will go possibly as high as 60 frames per second because there's a faster GPU. I don't know why you'd want fish on the screen going 60 frames per second, but isn't it just great to know that you can? Again, for things like scrolling, it's really handy. For things like animation, it's really handy. Movies, it's really handy. And it just feels smoother when you have that kind of animation. Let me just do one more, and then while that one's going, I'll take your question. So this is another one that's also showing animation, and here, again, you're seeing 21 frames per second, and it's basically just doing lots of redraws on the screen. Did you have a question, sir?
Yeah, it has to do with if you have a large page that you're going on, and it needs to download a lot, let's say a map or something like that, and then suddenly you enter an area where you have no mobile connection. How will it do that? Will it have some sort of caching?
So the question was, if I have a very large page that I'm loading in IE, and maybe I'm in a train maybe, and it's moving fast, and I lose my connection to the internet, it's going to be pretty much the same as what would happen on your desktop if you pulled your internet cable, right? You lose connection, there's no magic ether or anything. Unfortunately, if you lose your connection, you're going to lose the page.
But the reason why I'm asking is because, for instance, if you have like maps on iPad, for instance, it clears its own.
So Maps is a different case because Maps does do some caching, and there's a mapping application where you would do that, and it's really handy and it worked quite well. But IE is a different thing because it's a stateless thing, right? So if you get half a document, there's no way to know. HTTP doesn't have a way to know, hey, restart at the 50% point or what have you. Any other questions? One last thing I wanted to show was search. And so what I did is I hit, for those of you that have never seen Windows Phone, there's 3 standard buttons on every single Windows Phone. There's the back button and the start button, which you've seen me use. The back button, as you can imagine, is used in page navigation. It's just like the back button in browser, where you're going back a page. The start button is always getting you to your start screen, no matter what you're doing at any time. It's a hardware function, it can't be stopped. You hit the start button, you're gone, you go to the start menu. And then the last one is very similar, except instead of going to the start screen, it launches Bing. And so no matter where you are, you will always be able to get to search. In fact, you can even do it from the lock screen. Because as you can imagine, there's not a lot of security related stuff in Bing. Bing is a public site. And so what we're trying to do is make it really easy and really fast for you to be able to search. You may have noticed there's a few different options here. There's Bing Music, which will actually detect music. So if you're in your car and you hear a song on the radio, you launch Bing, you hit the music button, and it will actually detect which song is playing and offer to sell you the song on Zoom. The other one, which is the one I wanted to show you, is the little eye. That's what's called Bing Vision. And so I have a handy book here. And so it does some really interesting things. So if I scan, this is a book. I think they said they're going to give this away later today. So you see how I'm just hovering over the book, and it's actually detected that book. And now if I click that, it's actually going to do a search for that book. And it's actually giving me information, including review information. And it's also bringing up apps. And this is kind of a handy one. This is what I refer to as App Connect. So you as a developer have the ability to register an interest in certain types of information. Things like locations, products, those are things that you can, so if you have an app, for instance, that's about music, or an app that's about books, for instance, you could register an interest in that, and then when someone's searching on a book, it would actually offer them that application, so that they could then download the application, even if it's not installed on the book. So this works for the cover. It also works for QR codes. I don't have a QR code, but it will also work on a barcode. And you can see there it is. And again, it's brought me back exactly where you want to be. So very handy thing to have. Again, we've tried to do it in a way that makes it very quick. And so it's right on the start, right on the front of every device. There's a search button. Hit the search button and it immediately brings up Bing Vision. We're going to stop the demo there. I think there's 2 or 3 more questions. So why don't we do that? Yep.
How is that list sorted? I mean, say that you have an app, how do you get to the top of the list?
The question was, how is that list sorted? And
Because I would guess if it's
I
a lot
don't
of
know.
apps,
That's a good question. I don't
you would
know.
like to be on the
The
top.
apps that are installed on the device will always be at the top.
Okay.
As you can imagine, as the end user, you've registered an interest in an app by installing it. So it's likely that you know what it does, and it's likely that you will use it. So you put it at the top. And this is really handy, for instance, in movies, for instance, where I get information about the movie, but now I also want to know more information, maybe about the actors or other things that those actors have done. So it's kind of a handy feature. How these are sorted, the downloadable ones, that's a good question. I don't know.
Just thinking as a developer, you would like that.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends on how much you pay me and how much
guess
you
that's-
pay me. Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm making that up. Nobody quote me on that. But you can pay me later.
Right, this last feature, it's very cool. I used it a lot. This picture search and also search for sound.
Yes.
Very cool and very fast. But when will it be available in Denmark?
Good question. So there are some of these features are only available in some regions. The picture search, for instance, is not available in Denmark, but the barcode search is available in Denmark. Should be.
Yeah, you don't get that option. You don't get the
The Bing Vision is not available
No.
at all?
you know, if you say
Okay, so
your
it
location
varies
is
from
Denmark,
region to region, and so it's hard for me to keep track of which regions have that. But it's just a question of us having access to that local content.
More general question, how do you guys handle updates to the OS?
The question was, how do we handle updates to the OS? The answer is really well. And the reason I say that is because when we announced Mango, we actually made it available to all of the people that had Windows Phone 7.0. And within about 30 days, every single device on every single mobile operator had been offered the update. Not everyone is going to take it, obviously, but and that's, I think, 14 devices across 30 different operators. There's a matrix of something like 144 different combinations that we had to test and that mobile operators had to test. And within about 30 days, all of those were made available. So I'd say the answer is really well.
And that's also your future strategy, to keep on going like that?
Yeah, we think doing it really well is a good strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to continue doing it well. Yeah, so we, yeah, we're going to keep doing that. We'll keep updating. Some of the updates will be large, like the Mango update was a large one. Some of them will be very small, security updates, that sort of thing. And you'll see us doing that over time quite often. Yes?
When can I get Skype?
The question was, when can I get Skype? As soon as I get Skype, you're going to get Skype. Skype is only a recent acquisition. I know we've been talking about it for what seems like many months, but it only recently closed, I think less than a month ago. And I know that they've been working on it for some time, so I would say real soon now. You can quote me on that one. I don't have a date, so I'm totally guessing, but my suspicion is that we'll want to get, as you can imagine, I'm sure they want to get it out. That team is a pretty dynamic and agile team, so I'm sure that you'll see it soon. Yes? So the question, Link, L-Y-N-C? Yeah. So the question is, have we integrated Link? We have not integrated Link. We have announced that it's coming. We haven't announced a date. So again, real soon now. So it is something clearly, sorry, clearly, we want it, the office team wants it out there badly. And as soon as it's ready, with the right level of quality, because we have set a very high bar in terms of quality for what gets released onto the phone, it will make it onto the phone. Yes? Live Messenger is sort of there already because you can do it in messaging. Sorry? The ability to do calls, VoIP calls. I think we'll probably do that with this other thing called Skype. Yeah, I think it's probably the strategy there is, yeah, there's probably a few more people doing that on Skype than there are on Messenger. Yeah. We haven't announced that for Messenger, so I don't know if that's ever going to come. Yes, in the back? So the question was, is it possible to upgrade your phone without the operator? And not really. The operator does have to do, I mean, as you can imagine, there's all sorts of consequences of updating the operating system that could impact the operator's network.
But what if you buy a phone without an operator?
So all the phones will come from some operator. If they're not coming from an operator, then they will come from an OEM, and then the OEM has to approve the update. I'm sorry?
How well does Microsoft Phone consume JSON web services?
Ah, wow, so we're getting deep already. So the question was, how well does Microsoft Windows Phone consume JSON web services? And actually quite well. I mean, it's just a web service for us, and you just parse the JSON and party down. Yeah. Many web services use JSON, so it would be foolish of us not to support it very well. Yes?
The next problem, as I see this, is how do you differ between the network done? Because one price is being on a Wi-Fi, which is almost normally for free, but on being on a telco's operating network, it actually costs something. So how do we handle that actually?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
You don't have free data. How do you take it, or how do you price it? Because, I mean...
How do you price what? I'm not sure I understand the question.
You don't have free internet.
Yes, okay.
On the telco.
Yes.
So how do we handle it? I mean, if I have this living tile, it would consume the...
Okay, sure. Obviously, when you purchase your device, most mobile operators will bundle a data plan with the device.
But that's still limited.
So sorry?
That's still limited.
It's limited, or there's many rate caps? Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that you'll have to be aware of as you're using the device. If you are using Wi-Fi and you have access to Wi-Fi, then the device will actually use Wi-Fi before it uses your telco. And so in many cases, you'll benefit from that. But there's not really any way for us to control what data a consumer will use. I'm going to have to, I really hate to do this, but we're actually about 20 minutes late right now. So I want to cut it off here. And we're going to have a whole day together. So at breaks and so on, please come and see me if you have a question that I didn't get